Hello.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Oh,
How
hello.
are you? Okay, I got my questions printed out. So we're ready. Um, Everyone say hey to A Blossom.
Hi, y'all.
Everyone congratulate her on her latest release, Naughty and Leaked. How has the reception been for that?
I am super. I am just like super taken back by like the reception for Nadia Lee. That was a fan. I wrote that for the readers because I was had washed my hands with Houston and
What?
Harlem.
Why did you wash your hands with them?
I was kind of done. It was only meant to be um a novella. It was only meant to be that a short novella and leak it, and so I was done. I was probably gonna do like a little snippet, like 2,000 words, little catch up, and then everybody was like, "No, we need a whole nother book."
Is
So
is their story over yet? Like, are you motivated to continue their story into a third, fourth type of book? Are you interested in expanding their universe?
their story, their story, I have a little something
Okay, okay.
that just
I'm gonna follow up about
feels
that
like
something.
I feel like they need a happily ever after.
Okay,
And then we'll be completely done with it.
okay, okay. So we're not expanding the universe. You don't know. You don't know. Okay, okay. We'll see. We'll
Their
see.
universe is going to connect into another one.
Okay,
Yes,
which
I'll say
one?
that.
Which one? Existing or to come?
To come.
Okay, okay.
To
And as
come.
we just jumped right into it, I didn't say hi, hello, welcome. For those who are just joining us, welcome to Talia's Book Nook. This is a bookish live every first and third Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. Eastern, currently on TikTok. So see you again on January 1st and January 15th. I have the lovely A Blossom in the chat tonight. We are going to talk about most of your catalog. I've read all but two books from you this year. So I have a lot of questions about all the different series and different books. But first, we're going to start with a this or that. We're going to get a little warmed up. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions, this or that. I don't need explanations. I don't need qualification, just this or that.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes.
Fake relationship or marriage of convenience?
Fake dating.
Okay.
Fake dating.
Okay.
Yes.
Blue or Drew?
Oh, you're trying to make me choose violence. Drew.
Drew. Houston or Harlem?
Harlem.
Okay. Royale or Michi?
Oh goodness, you're trying to get me in trouble with the people that talk to me in my head. Royal.
Okay. Okay. Second chance romance or friends with benefits to lovers?
Second chance.
Okay. First person POV or third person POV?
First.
First. Acts of service or words of affirmation?
Words of affirmation.
He falls first or she falls first?
He falls first.
Voyeurism or exhibitionism?
Voyeurism.
Okay. And then last question, book talk or bookstagram?
Book talk.
Okay, why book talk?
Book talk. Book talk is just a whole different vibe, you know?
Okay.
I feel like on Bookstagram, we are all like so like very demure, very
I agree. And then
very
the girls are
cutesy, and then over here it's like
yes, and the girls are currently fighting about the book talkers migrating their platforms to Bookstagram, and there's been a lot of infighting. And yeah, I do agree that it is a different vibe. It is a different vibe. Um, And they each offer something different. So, but I'm partial to book talk as well. Um, anyway, so how are you doing? So you were in Houston this past weekend. What was that for?
I was in Houston for the Boozy Book Tour, and it was a time. I'm still tired.
What was the highlight from that weekend?
The highlight I would say, I sold out of all my books in like an hour and 30 minutes. So that was the highlight for me. And just anytime I'm doing an event and people come to my table and they're like, I came here to see you, and like they're telling me about the books, that's like always a highlight for me.
When's your
I'm
next
always
book
like,
event?
me? You read my book, so it's always, yeah.
When's your next book event?
The next book event that I will be at for sure right now is Black Romance, the Black Romance Con in Atlanta.
Okay, okay, so I'll see you there. I'll see you there. I will see you there. Super duper excited for that in May. Um, so yeah, we're gonna talk about your journey, your process, how you got here, your inspo. Then I want to ask about all your books because I got questions for each one, and then we'll end with kind of like a rapid fire, and then we're gonna take some viewer questions. And for viewers, as a reminder, save your questions for when I ask for questions because we're not scrolling. Okay, we're not scrolling. So when I call for questions, we'll get your questions. I'll be mindful of time. Um, but yeah, wait on your questions and we're going to get them all answered. Um, so, what was your earliest memory of reading romance?
My earliest memory is around seventh grade reading Coldest Winter Ever.
Okay, that every
It's not a
universal.
romance, but I feel like everybody that's in my all us millennials have the same
Yes.
origin story that we like read Coldest Winter Ever, and we were like, what is this goodness? And so that was like the first like urban book that I read. I was like 12 years old, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Have you reread it as an adult?
I have not because I don't want to ruin it.
Okay. Have you read the rest of that kind of like that series?
No, I have not.
Okay. 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 Same. um. So apparently, you've been writing since a preteen, and your first story, you wrote it for your classmates in the eighth grade. What was that story about?
That story is kind of a rough. It was kind of a rough draft of Between a Soul Tie.
Seriously?
Yes.
Are you
So
serious? Okay.
yes, when I started writing Between a Soul Tie, and I started writing about 2021, I started writing that story, and I was like, well, my first story, like, I'm going to bring these characters back. Like, I was like, I want to bring the story, honor the story that I wrote when I was a kid. So it was Blue, Kay, and Money. The difference is it wasn't a romance because I didn't know anything about romance.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so it was literally like situational. It was like they go to the mall, they go to the movie.
So like my B2K fan. That
Yeah,
so that was like that's what we used to
exactly
do.
like that because
That's
I
what we
was
used to do.
in the chats reading B2K fan fiction.
Okay. Okay.
I used to write B2K fan fiction in the
You did?
yeah.
Yeah, I was the same. I was a fan. And clearly you went on to write and be a serious writer. Who was your favorite member in B2K? Curious.
Little Fizz.
Little Fizz. Okay. Okay.
Fizz had me.
Okay. I think I initially liked Little Fizz, and then I think as I've gotten older, I'm like maybe it could have been J Boog for me.
Yeah, that's me
Yeah.
too. I'm like,
I think growing up is realizing that maybe J Boog was the one.
yes, that's me too. Because I'm like, oh, I spent so much time
Yeah.
looking at the that long hair.
Yeah, I think we were blinded by like the prettiness and for some the light skinnedness and the hair but like I think growing up I'm like I don't know if Lil Fizz was all that. I don't know.
Exactly.
So I understand like the Omarion and like J Book girlies. Like I understand what they saw
Mhm.
back then. So that's so funny.
I was looking at one of the comments.
What did it say?
They said they like Lil Fizz into loving hip hop. Me too.
Okay. That's also very valid. That's also very, very valid.
For me, I was like, why?
People talking about Lil Fizz to this day, he's still fine. Okay. So you were born and raised in St. Louis.
Yes.
How are you still in St. Louis?
Yes.
Okay. How has growing up in St. Louis and living in St. Louis influenced your writing and your characters?
I think because I grew up like in the city, and so I think it's why I write. I think it's more why I lean a little bit more towards writing romance, or like sometimes my characters talk the way like they talk a little, or sometimes I'm reading and I'm like, I read it back and I'm like that sounds a little ghetto.
So I was
But it's like I have my husband read. I was like, does that sound like? He's like, but that's how we talk.
So I listened to Between a Soul Tie and Playing with Soul Ties. Was it intentional having the her like and I'm not from St. Louis, so pardon me. But was that intentional?
It was intentional.
Okay. So did was
It
the
was intentional. I did want it in there. Yes.
were the voice actors from St. Louis?
They were not.
Okay, so they because I'm like because when I heard the her, I'm like, wait, I'm are you doing this on purpose? Like, were you instructed? Were you directed? So that's good to know. Okay.
Yes.
Um, where do you get your inspiration from?
Um, I draw my inspiration from everywhere.
Okay.
I literally write stories all day long in my head.
Okay.
So
What
like
what is an idea you have in your head right now that you want to flesh out and kind of build into a bigger story?
well, just today I was just writing a story in my head about the mailman.
Okay. Okay. Is this going to be contemporary, urban? Is it going to be a novella? Like, what is it going
It'll probably be a novella.
to... Okay.
And it'll probably be urban. I don't know if I'm a contemporary girly.
Okay. What tropes are you thinking for this mailman story?
That's a good one. What tropes? The only thing I have is that like we have a regular mailman that's been our mailman for like 5, 6 years. And then today it was like another person. I was like,
Oh, okay. So the mailman was on PTO.
yes. I was like, you on vacation? And I literally in my head was like, you answer the door. It's not your usual mailman. Maybe you're having a bad day.
Okay, mailman idea.
In my
Okay.
head, wrote a story about that. So that's literally how it works. I just things just come in my head, and sometimes they never like get on page, but I literally write stories all the time.
How do you, once you get an idea, how do you house it? Do you write it down? Do you put it in the notes app? Does it just stay up here? Do you get to like a Word document immediately? Like anytime an idea comes up, how do you make sure you document that?
It depends on the idea. Like if I'm like, okay, I have to see that as a book, like right now, I go into my notes app and I might just put like a sentence that's just gonna be buzzwords. Like I would just say, mailman comes to the door, so that it'll jog my memory. But I usually house them all up here, unless I'm like, I need to get to this book. I think when the idea for Finding My Bodyguard popped in my head, I like immediately wrote that down because it was just coming.
How did that come about?
I was reading like a mafia romance book, and in my head I kept thinking like, but what about the girl? But what about the girl? Like, what about the girl he's supposed to marry? And most of the mafia romances, they're like supposed to marry a girl and they don't want to marry her and they find somebody else. I was like, but what about her? Like, if she spends her whole life like being told she's gonna get married to you. So and it just popped in my head and then it just started coming and just kept coming.
When that idea came to you, did you think that this was going to be a series or just kind of like a one-off standalone?
It wasn't gonna be a series. It was going to just be a standalone.
Have any of your books been planned as series? Because it seems like you succumb to the peer pressure real bad. Like what? Like have any of your books been like this is always going to be a series? That's what it's
always going to be a series.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Soul Ties was always going to be a series. I always wanted, when I originally wrote that like story when I was in middle school, I always wanted to write another story for the other sister.
Okay.
So I knew that that one was getting a second book. But yes, the other ones, Finding My Bodyguard and Leak It, those are fun. I kind of knew I was going to write a second book for Finding My Bodyguard once I was writing it.
Okay.
Like once I was writing it, I was like, yeah. And Nietzsche is Vera. I'm like, I wonder. Okay. So yeah, once I was writing, I kind of was like, I might do that. I might make it a series.
So twins come up in a couple of your books across series.
Yes.
Do you know twins? Are you a twin? Do you have twins? What about the twin thing that is recurring in your work?
I think it's just my obsession with twins. Like when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a twin. I had an imaginary twin named Yasmin. And it was like my imaginary twin. And so I think I just was always obsessed with twins. And when I first started writing that, when I first started writing, for some reason, twins always come in.
Okay.
So I think that's
what is it? I'm like, what is it?
I think this was my subconscious with twins. Just yeah.
So about your writing process, what would you think? What would you say is the hardest part about writing a book?
My hardest part is like getting it started.
Okay.
Getting the book started. Because I normally know what I wanted to say. Like I normally know what I want to happen. But then it's like actually getting in there and knowing the characters and then like building their world and like not. And then the first part is like you want to start a book and be like, hi, I'm Sarah and I'm 22 and I got this. But like that's not gonna be the best way to write it. So it's like trying to figure out like strategically how to teach the reader about this character and let the world kind of unfold. That's always the hardest part for me. It takes me a long time to start a book.
Okay, what's the easiest part?
The easiest part for me is probably just getting the ideas. Because like I know I have the ideas, I know what I want. I normally know the plot twist right on in the beginning. But yeah, it's normally just that getting started. Once I get like that first 5K, I'm like, and then I can just go. And then that's probably the easiest.
Has there been an idea that you've had that you started writing for but you stopped?
Plenty. I've had plenty of ideas that I've started writing and then didn't go back to.
What is one of those ideas? Maybe we could reinvigorate and bring it back to life.
Well, okay, one of those ideas is gonna come back. Maybe I never like pulled the plug on them all the way. I'm just like these characters weren't talking. Let's move on. But I think one of them is I want to write a friends to lovers. Okay. And the hard part is that's like my least favorite trope.
Oh, really? Really? What's your favorite trope?
My favorite trope is it's gonna probably be between a secret baby. I like a secret baby.
No, I no. There's I most recently listened to Soul Ties, and there are babies,
Yes,
definitely in playing with Soul Ties. So I get it. I get it. Okay, okay. So you like Secret Baby?
I
Okay.
like a super
The
baby.
Friends to Lovers, you're gonna push yourself to
Yes.
write. Okay. What kind of made you want to revisit? Like, what was that catalyst to revisit that story that you put on pause?
Because I think it's a good story.
Okay.
Like I think that it's a good story, and I want to develop those characters. I do. I think I was like, I think that this is a good story. I think it's an original idea, and so I want to get there. It's funny because I stopped that book to write Finding My Bodyguard, so I was like, I'm gonna get back there, but those characters just wasn't talking at that time.
Okay. Okay.
But
So
they have been
that's on the
talking.
table. Is that your next release?
No, it's not.
Okay. What is your next release?
My next release is gonna be book 3 in the Bodyguard series.
Oh, wait,
Um,
wait. About who?
Contessa and Polo.
Okay, okay. I was like, wait, how many characters are left? Okay. What time of year 2025 are we expecting that?
It should be around the end of January or the beginning of February.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
My introduction to you was through the Bodyguard series. All of my peers, all the other book talk girls was like, y'all need to get into Finding My Bodyguard and Bodyguard My Heart. And I'm like, well, I want to read it too. And I'm very much like, a new book pops up, everyone starts raving, I'll abandon everything I'm reading to read the new thing. And that's what it was like for me in reading Finding My Bodyguard. So I'm glad to hear that book 3 is in the works.
Yes.
And we're hoping for January.
Yes, I'm hoping.
So I want to flash. So I want to flash back to Sex and Rescue, kind of like your first. Do you consider this your first?
Yes, that was my first release. Yep.
What was the inspo behind that? Because we're talking second chance romance, distance, time, years between these two. What was the inspo for that?
Um, Sex and Rescue just kind of popped in my head. I don't know if I was watching something or reading something, and or it just popped in my head. I was like, oh, what if like two exes were stuck together somewhere, and then it just came elevator. And that story is funny because it just all of the drama that's in that story, it just unfolded on page. Like I was just writing, I was like, and the character was like, "Yep," and that's his best friend. And I was like, "Oh, really?"
But yeah, so
Like I had
that came out in September of 2023.
August
Of 2023. And then you kind of wrote kind of like a follow up to it, kind of like a birthday follow up. Is their story over?
Their story is over.
Okay.
Their story is over, but they are my next release is for next year. I'm kind of trying to build that world, my universe. So you will see them again because
So we'll kind of get an update.
we'll kind of get an update on them. Yes, because Romello has the tattoo shop, and we will see the tattoo shop in some stories. And then Lennox is like works for television, and so we will see her in some stories
Okay.
too.
Okay. So we'll see them again. So my intro to you, like I said, was Bodyguard. And so many of my peers were talking about it. Why do you think Monroe and is it Royal or Royale?
Royale is Royale.
Why do you think their love story resonates with so many? Wait, what was the book called? We were just talking about Sex and Rescue. So the first release, NECA. Why do you think Monroe and the Good Doctor? Why do you think that story resonated with so many people?
Because I think Moreau. I think a lot of people could see themselves in Moreau. Like I even when I was writing, I wanted Moreau to represent like how like as women we sometimes don't feel like our best, or like even if you feel like you are the most beautiful versus somebody is always like, oh, um, and I think that kind of resonated with a lot of people, and just seeing her like be like broken and still trying to navigate life, and then just having someone like finally finding someone that got it, someone that gets it and wants and is just there to help her go through that journey. So, and it was very much it was very much like therapeutic for me writing. And like I always tell people, like, I had broke my foot when I was writing that book.
Not
And
while, like during the same time, because writing should not be.
no,
Okay.
I didn't break my foot from writing, but I literally just broke my foot just being clumsy and falling in my kitchen. But then I was like, I have to get this book out. But I was going through all of these all the things that now I can't walk, and I'm like sad and I'm hurt, and so I was going through all this like feeling really down, and I was just writing. So it was very therapeutic for me to write, and that's why Dr. London is like so perfect. So
No,
like
he is
I was
great.
like,
He
I
is
just
great.
needed him to be everything for her.
Okay. So the next book in Bodyguard, Bodyguard My Heart. Are you Haitian?
No.
Okay, okay, because I'm thinking what my next question is. So I'm Haitian. So
Oh,
when I was reading Bodyguard My Heart, and I don't know if I didn't know he was Haitian in the second book, but maybe in the first book it's like his last name. Between his last name and y'all are in Miami, I was like, is this man Haitian? Um, how did you go about writing Michi, his character, his family? Part of the book takes place in Haiti. What gave you that idea? How did you go about research? You got Haitian friends? Like, who was teaching you things?
I have no Haitian friends. I literally was on TikTok.
What video on
And
TikTok did you
YouTube.
see? Oh,
I was on TikTok and YouTube. So the idea, because whenever I'm finding my bodyguard, I didn't know Misha was Haitian.
okay.
But when I started to like character develop for him, once I got to the point where I knew he was getting a book, I started to character develop, and he told me he was Haitian.
Okay.
And I was
And then,
like,
and then what did you do next? Like, where did you go to Wikipedia? What did you
yeah. So
do?
I was like Googling about like just reading basic facts about Haiti, because it's like, okay, the book is going to be in Haiti. The first book was in Cuba. And I was like, okay, if I write this book in Haiti, I have to I have to be correct about some things. So I was just Googled a bunch of stuff, read a bunch of stuff, read some other books that were like set in Haiti.
Okay.
Um, then I was on TikTok like searching like language, like words, Haitian words, Haitian Creole words. And there's a lot of people on TikTok that are like teaching.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. There. TikTok has everything.
Yes, and like
I was
dishes,
curious.
meals, and then I was like on YouTube just watching people's vlogs that live in Haiti, so that I could get like a daily like
Okay.
kind of picture of life. So and I kept when I was writing, I kept telling my husband like I was like, somebody that's Haitian is gonna be like, this is not correct.
No, I was pretty impressed, and I'm like, is she Haitian? I need to find out eventually. So I'm like, I gotta ask that question tonight because I'm like, where? And then for me, kind of like just having apprehension about like writing like a Haitian man because there's like stereotypes about them,
Yeah.
and I think you captured some of like the unhinged, possessive, stubborn,
Yes.
like you captured. So I'm like, who does she know? What Haitian man does she know?
It was funny because when I was researching, it was like all those things about Haitian men. And I was like, oh, that's already who he is.
I'm like, who
Like,
does
I
she
guess he
know?
knew who he was. I guess he was right.
No, you did it well. You did it well. So now I want to move on to Leak It and Naughty and Leaked, which are both are such a treat. Um, what gave you the idea to write about a throuple, a poly romance? Like when, how did that idea come about?
The idea coming off of a girl that's on Instagram and TikTok that has two husbands.
Okay.
And
Are they twins?
no, her husbands are not twins. But I was like,
It's the twin thing that you like. It's
um, but yeah, I was like, huh. I like seeing her two husbands like, huh.
what were
That's
you trying to
interesting. I was
convey?
like, I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna write that. And Leak It is actually like two ideas that I had, and then I combined them because I had an idea of a girl with a leaked sex tape, lose her job, and things like that. And then I was like, oh, this could also be the poly. Like, this could also be the poly story. And so I combined those together. And that's how we got. Yeah. And I don't know, the twins, I was just like, wouldn't this be fun if they were twins?
What were you nervous at all, kind of like writing about a non-traditional type of relationship?
Very.
What were you nervous about? Like
I
what?
was very nervous. I was nervous to release this book. I almost scrapped it. I almost was like, I'll just keep this book for me, or like, I don't know. I was really nervous because I was like, this. I was like, this is filthy. I don't know if I should. I was like, I don't know, this might be too nasty to put out to people. And I also was like nervous of how it would be received. Like I thought people were like, oh, they're brothers, that's gross. And so that one had me like really nervous. And I was just like, I remember telling another author, like, people are gonna be like, that book is gross. And I was like, it's good. I was like, you see, I have a bunch of 1 stars because they're like, this book.
No, absolutely. And clearly I think the opposite. Totally. So what helped you get over that nervousness?
I think um I just I was just like, you know what? You wrote the story, like you worked hard on the story, you just put it out there and like it, you know, it's just I always say like regardless of how it's received, I wrote it and I'm like, am I proud of it? And so then
Okay.
that's always my thing. Like, am I proud of it? And then I'm like, okay, it's I feel like I'm always and I feel like all the authors are always nervous when we release because we're like, you know, like this is our little baby, and then we're sending it out to the world to be judged.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes I get very nervous and very like sometimes I have really bad anxiety on release days because I'm like, oh my god, what do we think about this book?
So after you kind of like hit public, I don't know how it works on the back end for y'all, but once you hit the button, what do you do?
Um, Release days are really stressful. I normally like I'm because sometimes it takes sometimes it's like right up and then sometimes it takes longer. So normally it's just like it's a waiting game. With my publisher, the thing that keeps me going is with my publisher. We like do release day group takeovers. So we go in our Facebook group and we play all these games and do all the fun stuff. And that's kind of the distraction for me to keep down the nervousness of what
That's
it
great. So
is.
there are people in the comments, and I could say this for me too. Someone joked, have me Leak It has me considering poly. Wouldn't mind having two boyfriends too. And I think for myself, I think between like reading your work, reading ML Bash, reading TM Richardson, it has very much opened up my mind to like the style of relationships that I'm open to. Um, is that what you were hoping to convey to readers, to empower readers to kind of think
Yeah.
outside of that traditional box?
Yes, Leak It is very much about just like thinking outside of the box and just doing what you want to do with your life. Like without like let the judgment go and just do what you want to do with your life. I think that is very much the message of that. I was like, if I'm gonna write a poly book, I was like, I know I wanted to be a girl. So I feel like the girls get judged harder when they have two boyfriends than the reverse. and I was like, I want to be a girl, and I just want to whatever relationship is to you is what it is to you, and like just whatever you want to do. If you want to do this, you want to sleep with this person. I'm always like, just live your life for you.
Yeah, I think you convey that great in this book because there is a given their situation, the leaked sex tape, this this relationship, like Naomi is like people are judging her and her situation. So but I think they ultimately choose each other and they kind of tune everyone else out. So Leak It and Naughty and Leaked are pretty spicy. I would say we're kind of veering off into like the erotica territory. Who in your life are you most afraid to read Leak It and Naughty and Leaked?
Oh goodness. Who in my life am I most afraid? Honestly, I would say like my kids one day. I was like, one day my children are gonna be older. They're gonna be like, oh, mama's books are gonna find mama's books in the attic.
What do they know about you as an author? Like, what do they know?
Okay, so my son is 5 and my daughter's 2.
Okay.
And so my son, he's at the age where he knows mama writes books. And I have like my books on the shelf. So he knows mama writes books. He knows those are like books. He knows they're grown up books.
Okay, so he registers. He can't be like at schools like my mommy, right? Like so he knows.
Grown-up books. He might he knows that mama's an author. That's why I say mama's an author. She writes grown up books for grown up. But I was like, one day he's going to want to open these books, and so yes, okay. I'm like, one day my kids are gonna open these books and they're gonna read these books, and they're gonna be like, what kind of
But I guess my follow up is once they do become adults and they might happen to read your books, right? And you've released like what 8, 9 books in your first year, so like you're gonna have a longer catalog by then. When they come to you being like, "Mom, I read your books," like what are you gonna say? What are you gonna say?
What am I gonna say? I don't know. I honestly do not know what I'm gonna say. I honestly, I'm like, don't know. Okay. I do not know. I hope that I don't know. Hopefully they come to me when I'm drinking.
Okay. Okay.
Hopefully, like at Thanksgiving, and I've had a few drinks. A little food, and then I can be like,
no, that's and you have many years. You have such a long time between now and kind of like confronting mommy's work. But I do think to someone's comment, I personally think it would be cool to have a mother who is not just a mother. Like she has ideas and she writes these complex characters who go after what they want and do what they want and love who and how they love them. So I don't think it's going to be that bad of a conversation. I think they might see you as more than their mother.
Yes.
I don't think you need to be drunk to when they come to you.
Like hopefully they I'm like hopefully they're proud. Hopefully they're proud.
Hopefully they're proud. And someone said, tell them these books paid the bills. Period. Yeah. Period. So the last 2 books of yours I read were Soul Ties. And both have become available via audiobook, exclusively on Audible. Why was Soul Ties the first to get the audiobook treatment?
Soul Ties was those are my first like I guess longer, lengthier books. My other books are all like under 100 pages. So those were the first longer books. And the girl they were received well. So those were the first ones to get like a deal from an audiobook company. And so I think, and it was very shocking because Soul Ties was my second book. Like Between the Soul Ties was my second book, and um, when my publisher said they want to do it in audio, I was like, they want to do what?
So I really like the narrators in this series. Did you play any part in choosing the narrators?
I got to list a list of narrators, and like they have you like list actors, whoever you want to put on there, just so they can get an idea of what the voice might sound like. I did get to listen through a few, so I did get to pick those two narrators.
Okay. Okay.
I did get to listen to a few, and Midnight Michael, when I heard his voice, I was like, yeah.
No, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I feel like
Yeah.
I've been introduced to him a little later. And I'm very picky about male narrators. Like I need it. I don't know how this is gonna sound, but I need the men to sound like men, right? And Midnight does a really good job of that, especially for like these two characters. So I think Midnight was a great choice. So great choice, and it's just nice listening to him. It's so nice listening to him. Speaking of soul ties, these relationships are messy, messy, messy.
Very.
Do you know this type of messiness in real life? Like, do you have people in your orbit who have these very messy situations?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I
and
do.
they overcome them. They get their happily ever afters.
No.
No. um, who
There's
was
just where I kind of drew like stuff in Between the Soul Tie. I drew like from Between the Soul Tie is multiple people's relationship, like of my friends, and I drew like something from this friend, something from this friend, something from this friend, and put it all in one. And it just created like, well, when you put it all together, it's very messy.
for the people in real life you know who may have contributed to these characters? Do they know? Do they know that you took a little bit of their where they're reading and they're like, wait.
My cousin was reading, and she was like, my cousin was reading, and she was like, "This is me."
Is this song
It
about us?
must be like, "This is me,"
And
and
did
I was like,
what did you say?
loosely.
Just a little, just a little.
I was like, yeah, maybe loosely.
Did she take that well?
She did. She's
Okay,
fine. She
okay.
reads all my books and like one of my biggest supporters. So she's always like, I'm always like, it's funny because the friends to lovers idea is like, that I always tell her, no, that one's gonna be you.
Okay, so
Like, this
she's
one
ready.
is usually you, but
She's
the friends
ready.
to lovers one is gonna be you. And she's always like, when does that book come out that I need to sue you about?
Oh my goodness. And in addition to like particularly in Soul Ties, it's just really messy. I think across all your books, all the exes are despicable. They are despicable. Um, where do you what inspires to such despicableness? Like why do you make them so evil?
Well, all of the one, I'm like, if I'm gonna write a villain, I'm gonna write a villain, okay? But it's also because I draw that from real people. Like those are people things I might see online that people might say to people, things that I've had exes say to me or like do to me, or so I draw those villains are from real people. So like I think I was telling somebody else like I told somebody else because somebody was like, I remember a review was like that money in the Soul Ties series, his character was like, it was unrealistic. And I was like, his character was directly drawn from a real person.
And this was this someone you dated or someone you knew? Or?
Um, It's it's two people. It would be like someone that I dated, and then it's someone that one of my friends dated, and I just put like every horrible thing that they had done is like Money's character.
Okay.
Like
So
every horrible thing they've said or done or anything like that, it's Money's character. I might have exaggerated a little bit.
would you consider him like your most despicable villain?
Oh goodness, no.
Okay, who's the most despicable in your catalog?
And my catalog, I think it's Cassius.
Okay, okay, okay.
It's Cassius. Yeah.
Speaking of, so I haven't read Her Heart on Ice and Fucking or Loving. Um, to others who haven't read either of those, which one would you recommend to read first?
Oh goodness. To read first, I would say Effing or Loving.
Okay.
To read first. Just because I feel like that, as crazy as that book is, I feel like it's a good time. I feel like it was me dabbling and writing like a thriller and a different kind of like love story. But I think that it's a fun time.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, it's very messy, which I think is a a catalyst for my books now that they're going to be have a little messy. But I think it's a good time.
And Her Heart on Ice is kind of like a Frozen retelling. Yes. Were you how like what number time did you watch Frozen? And you're like, this could become a book.
Frozen is like one of my favorites. I've watched Frozen a lot of times as an adult by myself.
Oh, not even the kids. Not even this. Not even kids.
Yes. I love Frozen. And so when our publisher said we were going to do fairy tales, and they had a list of fairy tales, and I remember going down the list, and I was like, where's Frozen?
Oh, it wasn't on the list?
It wasn't on the list. So I was like, can we add to the list? It's like, yeah, you can add one. I was like, okay, I'm going to do Frozen. And then when I actually started mapping it out, I was like, oh, I don't want to do Frozen. This is hard.
Oh, my goodness.
I was like, this is hard because Frozen represents everything that is like not romance, right? Not a romance book. It's not a romance story. It was, Disney doing something different. And I was like, oh, I have to somehow make this a romance story. When like the whole catalyst of Frozen is like, this is not a traditional romance story. So it was, then you throw in the powers, and I was like, So I quit. I wasn't going to write it. I was like, I can't do this. I can't write this. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to switch fairy tales. And then my son was watching Frozen, and I was like, it just hit me, and I was like, okay, I got it. I was like, I got the story.
What's that other fairy tale you were considering doing a retelling?
Princess and the Frog.
Okay. Oh, that would have been cute. That would have been cute. Is that something you would revisit?
I would love to write a Princess and the Frog. Like, bring it, like, yeah, do something with it.
Okay. So a lot of the FMCs and the villains have been inspired by people that you may or may not know. What about the MMCs? What about the love interest? Who's inspired them? What has inspired them? Because they're pretty great. So like, how do you go about writing the male love interest? Like, what's your process for that?
So usually the male love interest, a lot of times the male, well, no, that's not true. The male love interest, they live in here.
Oh, so they don't exist.
They don't exist. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't, and I think, and you like have a whole husband. He's not even. It's in your mind.
They live in my head, and then I draw things from. Like I tell my husband all the time. Like, did you see? Like, when he reads a book? I'm like, did you see that they say this? He says this. Like, so some things come out. Like, it comes from my husband. And then a lot of the time, once I get a male character, I'll go like TikTok searching
What do you search
for.
into the
I
TikTok search?
guess
What do you type in the search bar?
you can type in the search bar. I normally type in fine black male, but my TikTok, I think I've liked enough and
No, your algorithm knows what you
that my
like.
algorithm
Your
know
the
what's going
FYP
on.
is tailored. Okay. Okay.
Sometimes they just show me people, and I'm like
Ooh.
I was just strolling, and this guy popped up, and I was like, oh my god, this is Polo.
Do you just bookmark Find Men? Do you just have a collection of bookmarks of Find
I
Men?
screenshot them.
Okay.
I
Okay.
do screenshot them and keep them in my screenshots. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm like, yep,
Okay.
you're a book character.
Oh my goodness. That is very funny. So they're
You are
mostly
going to the book, sir.
it's mostly imagination.
Yes.
So your husband does read your work. What's his favorite book of yours?
Oh gosh, what's his favorite book? I don't know. I don't. He always talks about the Soul Ties books, but he read Naughty and Elite.
Okay. And what was his reaction to that?
That was the one. That's probably why I was like, why would you read? I told him, why would you read that?
Because
I said, who told you?
how does he read? Does he go on Kindle Unlimited like the rest of us?
Yes.
He got a Kindle.
He goes on Kindle like the rest of us. He doesn't have unlimited, so he buys the book.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So like what would you say, what scene do you think he had the strongest reaction to
Oh
in Naughty?
God. That hot tub scene. I
Okay.
think he was like, so where do you get your research
And what you say?
from? And I was like, I just in my head, just in my head. He's like, oh.
Okay.
And he was like, I'm just seeing if you some things I don't know about you.
Okay. Okay. So you're learning each other, learning more about each other every day. Okay.
Yes.
Um, so kind of transitioning to kind of like your like common themes in your work. So a lot of your characters are plus sized. Um, why is that something that you are deliberate and intentional about?
Um, I do that a lot because I'm plus size, and I've lived my whole entire life plus size. And so I think a lot of the time, especially like I'm a millennial. I come out of the '90s where like if there was a plus size main character, she was gonna be the villain, or she was gonna be just the best friend, a funny best friend. So I'm always like, if I get to tell my own stories, then I'm going to tell stories that I can relate to, and things that I wish I would have been able to watch or read when I was growing up. To kind of, always say like, representation matters, and so we kind of decide who we are in the world based off of everything that we see. So it's like, if I get to tell my own stories, I'm going to tell some stories about some plus size girls that are not insecure, that are not, that are the main character in their story and not just like a side character, a funny best friend.
What would you say would be kind of like that first plus size representation you saw in the media, whether it be TV, books, uh, um, film? Like, what would you say would be like
My
almost?
first one was like watching Moesha and Kim Parker, and Monique. Those were like the first people that were like, oh, they're brown skinned girls,
Mhm.
and they're bigger girl, like they're plus size girls and they're brown skin. That was like the first representation, but that I saw, and it always bothered me. I loved the Parkers, but it always bothered me that she was chasing.
No,
He
same,
was not
same.
attracted to her. Like that always bothered me, and um, I always was like, I just, if I get to tell stories, like I'm gonna tell a story of like plus size girl that someone wants her, like he is attracted to her.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
I think the further removed we've become from the Parkers, Like, we're like, we did not like Nikki chasing behind Dr. Ogilvy because, well, who the hell is Dr. Ogilvy to be chasing? Not like, so I totally get it. I totally get it. And I think for me, I think Kim Parker, especially in Moesha, her being like the fly friend, the funny friend,
Yes.
but still desiring more of that. Um, she could have an as robust love life as Moesha.
Yes.
So I totally feel you on both of those. Um, so you're part of Be Love Publications. Um, how has being a part of that roster made you a better writer?
Um, it it's so many like wonderful authors on just that roster, and it's really a sisterhood. Like we have our group chat, and we're like supporting and rooting each other on. And I remember when I was writing my first book, Sex and Rescue, I was like doing the final edits. I didn't know what to do, and like just being able, it was like late at night, like 12 o'clock at night, and it was just being able to go in the group chat and be like, I don't know what to do. And so many of them were just willing to help me. It was like late at night. So it's just really like a sisterhood. Like, I feel like everybody supports, like, we all support each other. And so that's been awesome. Even when we're like, we write together, we sprint together, and we're able to like root each other on. Like, okay, you gotta get your book done. You gotta keep going. Like we're like, we saw you strolling. We saw you liking comments and stuff on.
Oh no, not saying you.
You know get in that book.
When someone texts you and you don't answer, but you be tweeting, it's like,
Yes.
what book do you think they were the most instrumental in supporting you through?
Um, what the? I know I'm a big baby, so I whine about like all my books completing them. Um, but I really think I would say like when I was writing Effing and Loving, I wrote it was the fastest I've written a book. It was my third release. The other two books I had been writing over time. And then this book I was like, okay, I want to release again. I don't want to just like not release for a long time. Um, and so I wrote that book. Um, I wrote that book while teaching. Like I still have my full time job, and I wrote it in a month. And I was just on there like, this is so hard. Like I can't. I'm writing like late at night. I'm writing early in the morning. I'm tired, and just everybody was like just giving me positive. And just keep me going and like pulling up the sprint so that I can keep like write at night and staying up with me to write. So I think that book really helped. It was like my first time and like, oh, I can write a book in a month. It's not going to take me 2-3 years to write a book.
What book has taken 2-3 years for you?
Between a Soul Tie took 3 years to write, and then Sex and Rescue with this little 77 pages took me 2 years to write. Yep.
Okay. Um, what is your advice to someone who's decided I want to put out my first book? What's your advice to them?
To just do it. Don't let the nerves get you. Sometimes we're like, but this is the rough. Like I want to go back and edit again, and I want to go back and write more, and like, because we're so nervous to let somebody put their eyes on it. We want to be perfect. I always say like, just put it. Let's like put it out there, because sometimes when you're doing that, you're like delaying. I'm like, just put it out there. I since Be Love, I've sent her Sex and Rescue. It was a very raw book, and she actually sent it. She emailed me back and was like, "Can you separate the dialogue?" Because I didn't even know I didn't know what a book like the structure of the book should look like. She's like, separate the dialogue, and I always like appreciated that because she was like, do these three things and then send it back.
Okay.
And so I appreciate her for that. Like, okay, but I was like, I wouldn't have never known that if I wouldn't have just sent it in and to get that feedback. So yeah.
Okay. So, you've talked about the Mailman book that's coming. You've talked about Bodyguard 3.
Yes.
You're going to be at Black Romance Book Festival in Atlanta in May. What else is up your sleeve in 2025?
Um, just releasing. I am a full-time author now, so I just want to keep releasing, doing all these cool stories, and just being. I'm trying to be outside at the events and mingling.
Yeah, there's so many book events.
So many book events.
So many. So when did you become full-time?
I became full-time in September.
Okay, so 1 year. You did it in a year. Congratulations. Congratulations. So to everyone in the audience, it is time for questions. Me and A Blossom, we're gonna do a rapid fire. Y'all are gonna ask y'all's questions right now. If you haven't asked, if you've already asked it, you gotta ask again because I'm not scrolling. Okay, so we're gonna play a game. We're gonna do a rapid fire, and you're gonna tell me what the answers are to these questions.
Okay.
Um, what is a trope that you used to hate that you now love?
Um, Enemies to lovers.
Okay, okay. Favorite couple that you've written?
Royal and Dr. Leonard. Like, that's the same person. Royal and Moreau.
Um, who's your author bestie?
Brianna Michelle.
Okay, no, I see y'all together a lot.
Yes.
So correct.
Yes.
What was the first? So you said, what's the last book you've read?
I just read. I just read a book on the plane on the way back from Houston. I think it was like it's a Tatum James book.
Okay.
It was by Tatum James. For some reason, that title is.
What's the best book you've read this year?
Oh, the best book I've read this year. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I don't know. I've read so many great books. I don't know if I can pick one.
Name a couple.
I definitely love Rhythms Blues by Kimberly Brown.
Loved it.
Um, I really enjoyed Aces. Is it Aces Wild by Morgan Rose? Um, I really enjoyed Heir to His Heart by Tatum James.
Okay.
So yeah, those probably good. I really love those three.
What type of music do you listen to when you write? If you listen to music when you write?
It kind of depends on the story. I do listen to music. I listen to music before I write.
Okay.
So I kind of get distracted. So I'm like, I'm gonna sit down for a writing session. I have a playlist for each book. I pull it up. I'm like, okay, let's play some few songs from the playlist so I can get my head into the book. So it kind of depends on the book.
What's your favorite song off of your Naughty and Leaked playlist?
Oh gosh, what's on that playlist? I think it's a song by Chloe Bailey. Nice Girls Finish Last.
Okay, is that on that latest project?
Her. Yep.
Okay. Which FMC do you see yourself the most in?
Um, Marley.
Okay. Which one of your FMCs stressed you out the most?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And what are some of your other favorite genres other than romance?
Oh gosh. I read. I read a lot of romance.
Okay. I'm kind of the same. Like they're like I'm like 90% romance.
Yes, I would say. I could read fantasy. Like I like a vampire werewolf.
Okay.
It'd be fantasy.
Are those your preferred? I don't want to get it wrong to the fantasy community in the chat. Are those your favorite creature? Like what are those your favorite creatures? Like do you
like vampires?
You like vampires? Okay.
I like vampires. Yeah.
Okay, that's the rapid fire. You see, you survived. You survived the rapid fire. Let's get into these questions. Let me scroll back up. Do you determine the so Bronze Bella wants to know, do you determine the end of your books before you start writing? Like, do you already have the happily ever after kind of thought out?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not. I know, of course, the characters end up together. Sometimes I'm like, oh, we're gonna do this at the end, and then sometimes no. Sometimes I'm like at the end, and I'm like, how we gonna end this book?
So Melanated Locked wants to know, have you thought about writing a thriller? So you've written Fucking or Loving that has a thriller element. Have you thought about going full thriller?
No.
Okay. Is there any other genre you would challenge yourself to write?
I want to write dark, like I want to write a dark romance. I want to write dark romance. I want to write a thriller. But just even doing F and 11 was hard for me. Just adding that little element that was a little harder for me, but I did have fun doing it. I always say like it was the most fun I had writing a book. Like I was like, this was fun because I could just write crazy stuff. It doesn't have to make any sense. It's just
Yeah, it's
yeah.
So Janae asks, "What's your MMC of the two Bodyguards books?" I think you're asking your favorite MMC, and I think in our this or that you picked Royale.
Yes.
So that's your favorite. Is this third one about to take number one spot?
But see, I was gonna say Polo. I am enjoying writing him so far.
Okay.
Polo is interesting in that he is a baby, like he's the baby of the group, and yeah, Polo's fun.
Okay.
It's fun. He's like a good mix of Royal and Michi. I feel like from like those are like his big brothers, and he's like a good blend of them.
Okay. So if someone is totally new to you, they haven't read anything in your catalog, Toya asks, I haven't read any of your books yet. Which one should I read first?
I would say Finding My Bodyguard.
Okay, why?
Because I think Finding My Bodyguard is just a good whole, like, I feel like that is a good romance story. I just really like that story. I think it shows my writing. I think it shows all the aspects of like the messiness that you'll find in my books, the spice, the love. So I think it's just a good rounded out of who I am.
Lexi J, this seems like a hard question. Lexi J wants to know your favorite author to read.
That is a hard question. I don't have one favorite author. I have like some of my go-tos.
Name them.
Kimberly Brown. I love Masterpiece. I read a lot of B Love. I read a lot of Tatum James. And I'm leaving out a few people. But those are like my core.
What's the next book on your TBR?
Deuce by Kimberly Brown.
Okay.
That's my next book. I actually have started reading that book. Yes. I started reading it, but I want to read it and listen to the audio at the same time, so I stopped.
Okay. Question: What book would get the audiobook treatment next? Is in development? Maybe.
Yes, Finding My Bodyguard is coming next month.
Wait, what day?
Finding My Bodyguard is coming to audio next month.
What day? Do you know the day?
They told me January 14th, I think. Okay. I believe.
Can you tell us who the narrators are?
The narrators are the same from the other book, so it's Midnight Michael and Ebony Ford.
Okay. And what book is after? What audio is next after that?
My Heart would be next.
Okay, same narrators.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe.
I'm looking forward to that. What's one book that you read that made you wish you wrote it?
Oh goodness. I think Ace is Wild by Morgan Rose. When I read that book, I was like,
Did you have like like something similar already kind of in your mind, or it was just totally?
I did have something similar in my head. Like in that book, there's like a girl. She's in there to like rob him, but she falls in love with him. And I was like, how she just put it together. I was like, oh, it's so good.
Okay.
I was like, yes.
Okay. That's so you said it's called Aces.
Aces Wild.
Aces
Wild,
Wild.
no, Wild Aces. It's
Wild
the
Aces.
Wild Aces or Aces Wild.
Okay. Next question. Do you ever feel pressured to keep up with the amount of books you release in a year?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What's kind of like your goal for number of releases next year?
Yes. I would like to release 12 books. I would like to release a book a month.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I have a realistic. I'm trying to set realistic goals for like my life, and I'm a mom of two small kids. So my goal for next year is to do maybe nine books, 8 or 9 books. But yeah, it is a lot of pressure because like you want to release. Like I have all these ideas. I want to get them out. I wish I could write. If I could write like a book a week, I would.
Okay.
But yeah,
Is there a trope that you haven't written that you want to write?
yes. I definitely want to do an enemies to lovers. I'm doing that. I'm doing a friends to lovers. Um, I want to do a real like secret. It was just I dabbled a little bit in Secret Baby with playing with soul ties, but I want like the full Secret Baby experience.
Okay. Um, is the idea for enemies to lovers, is that in your mind?
No,
Not yet. Okay, so it's gonna come to you.
not yet. I don't have it.
Tiffany asks, from one writer to another, do you act out the scenes in your head to get the dialogue going?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I think for me, once the ideas leave my head, like if I was to say it out loud, it like it messes it up. Like if I say it out loud or something, it messes it up. It's like it lives here. So once it's like my voice, it's not. I'm like no, that's not what they sound like.
Leah wants to know, is there a trope you will never write?
I wouldn't say that because I'm like open to all the tropes. I like it. I want to write all of them.
Tangi wants to know, when you listen to the audio, do you listen to your audiobook, like the audiobooks of your books? Have you listened to Playing with Soul Ties, Between Soul Ties?
Yes, I have.
Are you ever surprised by like, Tangi wants to know, are you ever surprised by their approach?
I was okay. I was surprised with you mentioned it earlier with the accent. The
Yeah. Oh, you
I
didn't
was
know they were about to say
surprised.
her. You didn't know they were about to say her. Like
I was surprised that they like. I just put like St. Louis, maybe like St. Louis accent, like on the thing. And so when I heard it, well, actually, like my cousin listened to it first, and she was like, "Did you tell them to say that like that?" And I was like, "What? Say what? Like what?" So I was listening, so I was like, "Oh, oh." But besides that, like, I'm surprised by what I've written. Like, when I was listening to
like, I
Playing
wrote
with Soul
that.
Ties, I was like, "Girl, who wrote this?"
What was a moment in Between Soul Ties where you like, I wrote that? Like what part of the book was like, I can't believe I wrote that. Did I write that?
I think when I was listening to it, it's the scene where it's the fight scene where they like fight Blue and Money, and like just hearing them read, like hearing him read the fight scene, I was like, oh, I'm like, I said that. So yeah, that's always a shocking part because I think I live reacted to listening to Playing with Soul Ties and on TikTok, and I was like, what? Like, why was she moving with this man? Was she?
Oh my goodness.
I was like, wait, she really moves in with this man? Like, oh wait, he really picked her up out of this club. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, this always I'm like, I know I wrote it, but I was literally listening to it like I did not write the words.
Okay. Okay, that's good that you even listen. Like I would not fault you for writing it and having the audiobook produced and never Never. It's like hearing your recorded voice when you're watching you're like, I sound like that. I
It
sound like
is.
um
Between the soul ties, I like literally. I started listening. I couldn't finish it because it was too like I was too like oh my god like oh wait a minute I want to hear it. Like, but my husband's like you wrote it, you read it, you wrote it, you read it again.
what's wrong with you?
It's
But
different like hearing someone read it. Like I was so shy. I was like so shy. Like
you know, I'm the same way about once it's out, once it's out in the world, that has nothing to do with me. So Kenyatta wants to know, are all your ideas books, or do you write poetry, short stories when if you need to step away?
um all my ideas are usually books. Way back when I used to have a poetry book and I wrote poetry and just wrote little poetries and little short stories. And now I'm pretty much like just when I think of an idea, I'm scaling it right into a book. But maybe I should start back writing
Yeah, I was about to say, would
to
that
get
be
like a
a way?
little yes.
Okay, okay. Well, it looks like everyone has asked. Last call for questions because we're way past the hour. We're going on 90 minutes. What's your motivation when writing? Do you listen to music or in silence? So I think you said you listened to music before.
Before and then I write in silence because if I don't, I'll just be singing a song and just in the groove. So I listen before and then I write. Yeah.
Okay. Now that you're full time, when do you before you were full time? When did you find that time to write?
I was literally waking up before my children, so I was waking up at 4 a.m. and writing, and then I was writing after they went to sleep. So about 8:39, will start writing. So literally before and after.
Is it something that you try to do every day or like
I
a
did.
couple times
I
a week?
write every day.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sitting in silence, that is definitely, I'm trying to think it like doing something in silence because I feel like I always have something playing. But you must be locked in when it's just
Yes.
silence.
I'm always like I have to be completely in that world. I have to completely be submerged in these fictional characters and in this world and their world. Like any little thing from like anything from my world, I'm like, I lost it. So yeah,
Do you get easily distracted? Like how do you tune out the distractions?
it's super hard.
Okay.
It is super hard, and I'm still like working on it. But it's super hard because I'm easily distracted. Like my phone rings, or like TikTok sends a notification. Right?
You have your notifications turned on?
I do.
Oh, oh my goodness. I could not imagine. I could
I
not
do.
imagine.
Now I'm about to go turn them off.
No, please. I could not imagine. Oh my god, please turn those off. Absolute last question from Red Sonia. Do you ever experience writer's block?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have
Yes.
tight deadlines to finish your books, or are they flexible? Like, what do you work better? Just
My deadlines are pretty flexible. It's pretty much when I want to release a book. So they're pretty flexible. The only time I have a deadline if we're doing like a group project, then we have like a set day that we need to get um those things turned in. And but I've always been a procrastinator, so I always write better when I'm like under pressure.
okay. So the
Like if
deadlines do
I'm
work for
trying to
you.
get like I know that I want to release this book in January. I know I need to get it done at a certain time to make that happen. So then I'm like, but if I'm like I've been writing this book since the beginning of November, and I'm like writing 100 words a day. Like I just procrastinate, and so I've always been like that. I'm always like, at the end, I'm like, I can.
When are you hoping to finish this next one?
I'm hoping to finish it by the end of the year. I do not want to take this book out of 2024. I want it to be done. So,
Okay. Anyways, A Blossom, thank you so much.
yes,
This is
thank
great.
you
Thank
so
you
much
for
for having me.
no problem. I when I was thinking of the guest I wanted to have, I was like, oh, I'm like, me and A Blossom were mutuals. There's a little rapport. She'd be in Talia Talk Tuesday.
Yes.
Email her.
When are we gonna talk about Chloe and Verna?
We talked about them last night, low key. I said she need to go have fun in
Did I
Lagos.
miss it?
Yeah, you may have missed. It was at the beginning,
Oh.
but I was like, she just let her have fun. Let her. This is what your 20s are for. So that's my stance.
I
Let
was
her
so
have fun.
happy. I was like, please have a good time.
Yeah, I was like, the timing would kind of be perfect because Naughty and Leaked came out recently. So I just want to thank you for being my second guest on
Yes.
Talia's Book Nook. I appreciate you taking out the time. Um, and yeah, thank you so much. For the
Thank you.
rest of y'all, we're gonna stick around a little bit. I'm gonna let A Blossom go, and you could stick around, or you could.
Are we doing the spice meter again?
No, were you tuned into that? What before you go off? Like, what are your thoughts on kind of like spice and ratings, and what is your approach to spice?
I'm just spicy. If my books are gonna be,
How would you rate your books out of 5?
um, I think I put my books around like if we're doing the little chili peppers, like maybe 4.
Okay. Okay.
Peppers. I think that yeah, I lean towards the spice.
Do you have plans to kind of like exceed that 4? And like what would a 5 from you look like?
Um, a 5 for me. Man, a lot of things. A lot of things are going to be happening.
Like,
A lot of
is,
things.
is a 5 in the works, or
It is.
okay, what is
It
something
is. I
what
have some
what
spicy ideas for
can
next
you
year.
name one thing in this forthcoming 5 that we could expect?
Well, our lovely Sally and Wood, from Naughty and Leaf, are going to be getting their own story, about their interesting life of being, adult
Being
content
content
creators.
creators. Yes, yes. Okay. When is
So
that coming? When is that coming?
that is coming sometime next year.
Okay.
Sometime next year is coming.
Okay. I think that would be great to kind of see them have their kind of own story. So that is
Yes.
very. How are you researching for that?
I'm
Like,
watching a lot of
okay, do your researches. Do your researches. Okay.
for research.
Do you have
Yes,
a title for that book?
I do not have a title yet.
Okay. Can you tell us the title of Bodyguard 3? Is it too early?
I do not have a set title yet.
Okay. Okay. All
I
right.
have a few ideas that I'm bouncing, but yes. Usually I don't settle on the title till I'm like 80% done with the book.
Okay. 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 Anyways, now I'm actually gonna let you go. Thank you so much.